All right, so today Fauci was called before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, chaired by Senator Rand Paul, who thinks Fauci is a criminal. So that's what he thinks, Mr. Paul. The focus is that Fauci is a swamp creature. All right, he's been in federal government for 35 years, something like that. And somehow he was elevated to the top spot in the COVID situation. Okay? But the Biden administration, which propped Fauci up, remember, Fauci was Joe Biden's personal medical advisor until they moved him out, brought in the guy who also took the fifth as Biden's medical guy. So everybody around Biden is taking the fifth when it comes to meds. So the main controversy is that the United States government gave around $600,000 through the National Institutes of Health to the Wuhan lab where COVID was constructed. 600,000 at least. Could have been a lot more. So we donated this money, we the taxpayer, to look at COVID. And somehow the COVID virus escaped from the lab in a weaponized form. Okay? Chinese shut down any investigation. We'll never know exactly what happened. But Fauci was denying all of this. At first, he even denied that the Wuhan lab got any money, but that was easily put aside. And then Fauci goes, well, it was animals that did it, and then blah, 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 blah. It wasn't a lab situation. It was. Those are two big whoppers. But remember, President Biden pardoned Anthony Fauci before Biden left office. I don't believe he signed the pardon. I think he used an auto pen. I think his crew, Biden's crew, did it. But that's based on speculation. So Fauci knows that whatever he did, whatever misleading stuff he did, he flip-flopped on masks, he wanted all the kids out of school, whatever it may be, okay? It's on him because he was the top COVID advisor. But he can't be prosecuted, okay? So this is what happened this morning. Go.
Can you explain to the committee why you chose to fund this dangerous research in China?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
All right, so you're not going to get anything out of him. And in fact, his attorney was booted out of the hearing for a disruption by Senator Paul. 36 years, Fauci's been in government. He understands through his counsel that if he did start to answer questions, he's toast. The evidence is overwhelming against the man. Overwhelming. Okay? So you're not going to say a word. You're never going to get anything out of him. So he flip-flops on wearing masks. He recommends social distancing, and all of that stuff was bull. While European children were going to school, American kids weren't, and nothing happened to the European kids because COVID didn't spread widely among children. Now, he's a villain, he's a weasel, and I don't take any pleasure in saying any of that, but it's true. He's a swamp creature, and they got him. But not before Anthony Fauci was embraced by the liberal movement in the United States. Why? I was skeptical of everything. Conservative, liberal, I don't want this politicized. I want it to go away. Okay? Why did the left love Fauci? Very interesting question. Roll the tape.
I think some of the things that we forget about Dr. Fauci is not only that he was so present during, of course, the global pandemic, and I had trust in him. Mm-hmm. He helped solve our AIDS epidemic.
Yes,
he was
so did
there
Dr.
on the
Birx.
front lines when, you know, when we needed him most.
I'm an optimist, and I think that the scientific and public health endeavors in this country have fueled us for so long, and obviously thanks to people like Dr. Fauci, got us through some really tough years, not just COVID, but going back to HIV/AIDS and other things.
All right, so he has a base of operations that continue to this day. And so once Paul dropped the subpoena that Fauci would have to appear, Fox News mentioned it 343 times. Might be a little overcooked, but CNN and MS Now mentioned Fauci being forced to appear 11 times. There you go. Hello. Okay. The worst of the worst is CNN's Abby Phillip. Go.
I think one situation that, frankly, where we saw the government was certainly obfuscating, didn't have any transparency, was Anthony Fauci, who we're getting his diaries today, where he was purposely obfuscating about
Anthony Fauci.
That's actually something where we know he was purposely obfuscating.
Lydia, we're sitting here talking about Americans who were killed in theater, okay, as a result of a war. We are not going to pivot to Anthony Fauci's diaries.
Why not? I mean, the point of the matter is that transparency is lacking, so Abby Phillip believes, on the Iranian casualties. So what Lydia Moynihan said was, well, it happens all the time. Even something like COVID, there was no transparency. Look at Anthony Fauci. And then Philip goes, oh, we're not going to talk about that. Why? Why aren't you going to talk about it? We all know why. So there is kind of a protective net around Fauci. But that net is strong because of the Biden pardon. And that's what's happening. You're not going to hear a lot about Fauci. I think he may be held in contempt of Congress. That might happen. But with the pardon, going to be tough to get through that.